This topic is about communication challenges in a diverse settings.
At the end of this lesson, you will be able to explain the opportunities and challenges of communication in a diverse setting, develop cultural competency, and recognize cultural variations. Learning Outcome 1. Explain the opportunities and challenges of communication in a diverse setting. You will meet a diversity of workforce in your career. What is diversity? Includes all the characteristics and experiences that define each of us as individuals. This section will look at the advantages and challenges of a diverse workforce from a communication perspective and the key differences among cultures.
Advantages of a diverse setting. A diverse workforce offers a broader spectrum of viewpoints and ideas, helps companies understand and identify with diverse markets, and enables companies to benefit from a wider range of employee talents. Challenges of a diverse world. Diversity in the workforce can affect our communication in the workplace. Supervisors face the challenge of communication in a language that can be easily understood by their staff. Both the verbal and non-verbal cues may also bring differences in terms of meaning to different cultures. For example, football and head nodding gesture may have different connotations in other cultures. Different cultures have different perception of time and space. For example, some cultures view punctuality as an indicator of the level of commitment and interest in their work. Space and distance interaction is another challenge. Some cultures prefer to stand closer in a face-to-face conversation, while others may not be comfortable in such situation. Our second learning outcome is developing cultural competency. In this section, we will define culture, explain how culture is learned, and define ethnocentrism and stereotyping. What is culture? Culture can be defined briefly as a set of values shared by a group. Our cultural background influences our beliefs and values in life that lead to the establishment of behavioral rules. How culture is learned? Culture is learned directly and indirectly through instruction and observations. We learn from our parents, teachers, or influential people. We grew up in such surroundings and learn how best to function. Sometimes we are told which behaviors are acceptable. At other times, we learn by observing which values work best. Hence, culture is passed from person to person and from generation to generation. In intercultural communication, we must be able to accept differences and understand cultures. Ethnocentrism is the belief that one's culture is superior to that of others. Problems arise when a person is ethnocentric. They feel that there is no need to learn the culture of others. Another problem in cross-cultural communication is stereotyping. Stereotyping is the assumption that one's attributes is generalized to other members in that particular group. For instance, men are strong and do all the work. That generalizes the man's physical power. Our final learning outcome is recognizing cultural variations in a diverse settings. To ensure successful communication, we can start recognizing some cultural differences, cultural context, legal and ethical views, social customs, non-verbal signals, age, gender, religion, and abilities. Please note that this discussion of cultural variations are some generalizations that may not be true in other cultures. Hence, each culture may have their own unique circumstances of each encounter when making communication decisions.
Contextual differences. Cultural context refers to the mixture of traditions, expectations, and unwritten social rules that help convey meaning between members of the same culture. Cultures vary widely in the role that context plays in communication. In a high-context culture, people rely less on the message content and more on the circumstances, that is, context of non-verbal actions and environmental settings to convey meaning. In such cultures, as individuals grow up, they learn how to recognize situational cues such as gestures and tone of voice and how to respond as expected. Also, in a high-context culture, the primary role of communication is often building relationships and not exchanging information. Examples of high-context cultures are the Japanese, Chinese, Indians, and others. In a low-context culture, people rely more on the message content and less on circumstances and cues to convey meaning. In other words, more of the conveyed meaning is encoded into the actual message itself. Examples of low-context cultures are the Americans, Canadians, Australians, and others. The different expectations of low and high context cultures can create friction and misunderstandings when people try to communicate across cultural boundaries.
Low context cultures tend to value the written word, consider written agreements binding, and view the law strictly, whereas high context cultures tend to put less emphasis on the written word, consider personal pledges more important than contracts, and view the law with more flexibility. Social differences. The combination of formal and informal rules influences the overall behavior of everyone in a society in such areas as etiquette and manners, attitudes towards time, individualism versus collectivism, attitudes towards status or wealth, and respect for authority. Nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is also known as the body language that includes facial expressions, eye contact, tone of voice, body postures, and dress style. These gestures can influence the way receivers decode messages, and the interpretation of nonverbal signals can vary widely from culture to culture. For example, nodding the head may denote agreement to one's culture and negative in another.
Age differences. Cultures that value youth. In some cultures, youth is associated with strength, energy, possibilities, and freedom. Cultures that value seniority. Age is often associated with declining power and a loss of respect and authority. In contrast, in cultures that value age and seniority, longevity earns respect and increasing power and freedom. Cultures with multiple generations. Each generation can bring particular strengths to the workplace. For instance, older workers can offer broader experience and good relationships and the ability to solve complex problems.
Gender differences. Gender influence workplace communication in several ways. First, the perception of men and women in business varies from culture to culture, and gender bias can range from obvious discrimination to subtle and even unconscious beliefs. Second, where the percentage of management roles held by men increases steadily up the corporate ladder. This imbalance can significantly affect communication in such areas as mentoring, which is a vital development opportunity for lower and middle managers. Third, research shows that men and women tend to have different communication styles. Men emphasize content and outcomes, whereas the women place a higher premium on relationship maintenance. Religious differences. Religion, which is the most personal and influential aspects of life, can be a potential controversy in a work setting. As organizations work to establish inclusive workplace, this issue will remain and continue to be discussed over the coming years. Ability differences. People with hearing, vision, cognitive ability, or physical ability differences can be at a significant disadvantage in today's workplace. Success starts with respect for individuals and sensitivity to differences, especially in a diverse setting. Investing in a variety of assistive technologies can help create a vital link for thousands of employees with disabilities, giving them opportunities to pursue a greater range of career paths and giving employers access to a broader base of talent. To summarize, we have learned what are the opportunities and challenges of communication, how to develop cultural competency, and how to recognize cultural variations in a diverse setting.